Hello, this is Avery Drake. This is my CWR Spotlight presentation. Let's talk about the crop wild relative of the strawberry. Alright, so this is the Fragaria vesca, the woodland strawberry. I actually had to make sure I was saying that correctly. It's G, not J. So Fragaria vesca. The preferred scientific name is Fragaria vesca L, and the common name is the wild strawberry, and the other ways we can say it is Fragaria chinensis lonskink, which is where the L comes from in the preferred name. And there's Fragaria concolor Kintag and Potentialia vesca L scop. And then common names: alpine strawberry, European strawberry, so-treat strawberry, wild strawberry, woodland strawberry, which is what I know it as, and wood strawberry. This is in the family, the rose family. I just wanted to show a list of all the places that this species is native to. So all of these places is in the northern hemisphere. The United States is not listed as a native location, but we do see them in the United States, and I'll talk a little bit more about that on the next slide. But it's a different subspecies of this species that we see in the United States. Alright, so I'm going to talk a little bit about its origin. So the wild crop relative of the strawberry originated from the Roman and Greek eras. It started to be cultivated in the 1300s in Europe, specifically in France. It was mostly cultivated for the flower it gave rather than its fruit because of its beauty. And then the royals started to plant them in their gardens. And then 1500s, the plants started to be used as a garden planting and has been transplanted from the woods to their gardens. So in their locations, eastern, northern hemisphere, high altitudes, so it's present in North America, North Africa, Asia. We also see it in the United States, in our northern states: Connecticut, Maine, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, Vermont. We see them a lot in Missouri too. I remember seeing them in college at C of O. So this is a very good map that I found. It's from a agriculture monograph from Ramirez. It was made in 2019, but this is shown as a 2016-2017 abundance. So the Fragaria vesca is located in the eastern north hemisphere in different forests of high altitudes. It's very common. It's very common in Europe, North America, North Africa, and Asia. The strawberries that we cultivate today, Fragaria ananassa, originate from two wild species growing in America: Virginian strawberries and the Chilean strawberries, which are from South America. These two Fragaria species were introduced to Europe during the 18th century, and the hybridization into the new species garden strawberry occurred during the end of the 1700s. Commercial production in a small scale began in the 1800s. In addition to the woodland strawberries, the cultivated strawberries have two other closely related species in the Nordic wild flora. These included the creamy strawberries and the musk strawberries. The woodland strawberries are the most widespread, and they have the best fruit quality. However, if you are lucky to find a mature berry of a musk strawberry plant, they are very delicious. Creamy strawberries have a nice acidic flavor, but not the typical strawberry aroma. Creamy strawberries can sometimes ripen without becoming red. The woodland strawberry, it can be found in the forest, it can be found in swamps, damp ledges, so it likes moisture, and it's very receptive. Like, it can grow in many different types of soil: clay, loam, sand. It just needs to have moisture. The wild strawberry is an excellent food source for many types of animals. We can consume it too, but we normally consume the commercial one that we get out of the supermarket. But I've also read that the woodland strawberry actually has a superior taste compared to the strawberries that we normally eat. They also have medicinal purposes. So the leaves and the fruit are laxative. The leaves are mainly used though the fruits are excellent food to take when you have a fever, and are also effective in treating gout. A slice of strawberry is an excellent when applied to sunburnt skin. A tea made from the leaves is a blood tonic and has been used as a treatment for diarrhea in adults and children. And a poultice can be made from powdered leaves mixed in oil. It is used to treat open sores. Fragaria vesca, it grows in regions worldwide, usually in high latitudes. Temperatures between 15 degrees Celsius to 22 degrees Celsius. It has high genetic variability, so they are able to adapt to the environment, and most important factors for their growth is the temperature and the daylight period. High permanent light intensity is essential for the growth of the plant. Northern varieties usually grow a little during the winter, meaning they need good light to grow. The flower production occurs in a seed-to-seed cycle. Small white flowers are formed in small clusters. The plant is bred through runners. It has a short seed to fruit cycle. It's around 3 to 5 months. The flowers are insect pollinated. About 160 seeds are produced per fruit, and those seeds are later distributed by animals. The flower structure opens itself to have unrestricted access to pollen, but pollinators are needed to help with better fruit development. Fragaria vesca has a clonal reproduction that forms through the nodes that grow on the runners. This reproduction takes place after flowering between summer and autumn. The clones that are connected could potentially receive resources from the main parent plant. So you can look at the little diagram I have of the strawberry plant, and you see the short stems come up from the crown, the roots, and those runners produce those daughter plants, which are the clones of the parent plants. Alpine strawberries have white flowers and fruit held high, often above the leaves. They bear fruit throughout the summer months. Their production peaks in midsummer, and they're tough. They can tolerate a variety of soils and withstand drought. There are many varieties of them. A lot of them have been cultivated, so not all of them are in the wild. Produce runners, and some of them don't produce runners, and they can all be reproduced by seed. As for taste and value, it depends on what you want out of a strawberry. Many sources will say that alpine strawberries are delicious. The birds really like them. I know I'm not alone in my experience that the smell of them are very delicious when you freshly pick them. In the United States, the wild strawberry is likely to be Fargeria virginia, or the mountain strawberry, and it's very similar to Fargeria vesca. What makes both of these strawberries different is that neither of them bear much resemblance to the plump modern garden strawberry that I talked about before. And that was an accidental crossing. So the strawberry that we eat from the grocery store is from Fargeria virginia, which is the mountain strawberry, and the South American larger fruited Fargeria chiloensis. Alright, so we're going to look at the priority status of Fargeria vesca. So on the International Union for Conservation of Nature's Red List or of threatened species, it's in least concern. It's used abundantly in research for improving fruit quality in cultivated species, just because it has a superior taste and a very good aroma, so its genetics can be used to create new cultivated species through genetics and breeding. It could have some problems in the future, so the high rate of climate change may soon expose plants to conditions beyond their adaptation limits. So clonal plants, which is like the Fargeria, can be affected due to the limited geotypic diversity of their populations, which can potentially decrease their adaptability. So a test was done in a work that I read about, which is down on the references, tested the ability of the widely distributed Fargeria vesca to cope with periods of drought and flooding in climatic conditions. So, and they concluded that Fargeria vesca can adapt to climate change, but the increased ratio of the clonal to sexual reproduction and the alteration of genes involved in its self-capability system may be associated with reduced genotypic diversity. So it may negatively be impacted to novel climate change in long term. How is the taxa propagated and or preserved? Fargeria is a vegetatively propagated crop. The easiest, the most direct method for conservation is in a field gene bank. Germplasms remain at risk due to biotic and abiotic factors, which includes climate change. Besides, this approach does not result in the distribution of healthy plants without viruses. So in vitro techniques and methods are in place to propagate and preserve or conserve Fargeria germplasm. In vitro storage may be done in cold conditions or use liquid nitrogen as meristem or the shoot stips. So let's talk about cryopreservation or cryoconservation. So it's where biological material, cells, tissues, organs are frozen to preserve the material for an extended period of time. At low temperatures, any cell metabolism which might cause damage to the biological material is effectively stopped. So for a cryopreservation protocol to be successful and to provide very good results, experimental conditions for each of the steps must be optimized. The protocols need to be better for better regrowth. There is scope for improvement at each step of the tested techniques to obtain higher recovery of cryopreserved shoot tips. For a cryopreservation protocol to be successful and to provide very good results, experimental conditions for each of the steps must be optimized. The protocols need to be better for better regrowth. There is scope for improvement at each step of the tested techniques to obtain higher recovery of cryopreserved shoot chips. Have studies been conducted on taxa population genetics? So Fargeria fesca is a model organism. It represents apples, pears, peaches, and roses in perennial life cycle and the development of fleshy fruit within the rose family. So in 2017, Agricultural University of Iceland, they did a study on 298 Fargeria fesca plants using microsatellite markers, and they had an aim of analyzing population structure and the distribution of genetic diversity. Of the 68 markers tested, 56 were polymorphic with an average of 4.46 alleles per locus. So Fargeria fesca subspecies forms a single global population, and there's evidence that the Icelandic group is a separate cluster from the main Eurasian population. I have looked through a study done in 2022 that's talked about DNA barcoding. I will show you the reference at the end of the presentation. DNA barcoding is an efficient tool for species identification for many groups of vascular plants. It's a better technique for distinguishing species. It studies the phylogenetic relationship and the genetic diversity between species population. It's based on a short nucleotide sequence of the genome. So this study showed, because they used Fargeria species, that there are very many similarities between Fargeria species in general with their related species, and one of those is the Potentilla indica, which is what's pictured on the slide. It is the Indian strawberry. It also showed very good diversity and is related to the Fargeria species. So at the end of this study, the conclusion showed that more DNA markers should be used to understand the genetic diversity of Fargeria species, and the DNA barcoding markers would be used against different populations for identification of specific locus and genetic diversity between populations. Research was done in 2020 by the Shanghai Agriculture Applied Technology Development Programs in China, and they studied the major facilitator superfamily, which is represented by MFS, the sugar transporters, which is STs in strawberry species. The involvement of MFS sugar transporters in cultivated strawberry fruit sugar accumulation is largely unknown. The work wanted to characterize the genetic variation associated with fruit-soluble sugars in a collection which included 154 varieties of strawberry. A total of 67 ST genes were identified, and which included the Fargeria fusca, the dominant sub-genome provider for modern cultivated strawberries. So that is what they're representing Fargeria vesca as. It is the provider. So the work highlighted the involvement of STs in controlling strawberry fruit-soluble sugars and provides candidates for the future studies in STs in the strawberry plant and new approaches for strawberry genetic engineering and molecular breeding. So I also wanted to mention that the sugar transporters are very important in the fruit development of the strawberry. STs has an effect on fruit development, which is shown in the study. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the breeding objectives for the strawberry. And fruit quality is one of the things breeding program really wants to improve. So cultivated strawberries, they have a high risk of insect and virus infections, so new hybrids are always needed to improve crop yields and just a better strawberry. So a total of 105 inbred lines were developed for candidate parents of hybrid breeding at the Institute of Vegetable and Floriculture Science, National Agriculture and Food Research Organization in Japan. They phenotyped for patchouli length, leaf area, bricks, fruit hardness, and pericarp color. And I looked up what Brix meant, and Brix just measures the amount and quality of sugars in plants, so the higher number in the Brix measurement, the better the crop will be. So 105 progenies that did not show low fertility and aberrant morphology were selected. Thus, genomes of the progenies consist of the mixture of the ancestral genomes. As expected, F1 hybrids that were predicted to have high fruit hardness and high pericarp color expressed higher in those attributes than the others. And through the analysis in the study, they demonstrated that GS, so genome selection, can be applied for strawberry F1 hybrid breeding. Okay, now we're going to talk about the fruit genetics. So the cultivated strawberry is highly heterozygous, which is hard to breed and to find specific genes. So there is a journal article that was made in October 2023, and they asked a lot of questions and did a lot of work over how they can improve fruit quality. So they asked the questions like, could we dramatically improve strawberry fruit aroma, sweetness, and texture? Could we increase the sweetness of the strawberry without sacrificing the yield? Could we create new color varieties that are not just red and white? Could we extend shelf life and reduce bruising? Could we fine-tune gene dosage, alter gene expression, and replace genes with CRISPR-based tools? Could we simultaneously change multiple genes in strawberry? So, Fragaria fesca, the wild strawberry, what I've been talking about, have diploid genomes and are becoming laboratory models for the cultivated strawberry. So recent availability of big data has made it possible to locate specific genes that underlie volatile synthesis, anthocyanin accumulation, and sweetness intensity. So volatile synthesis is basically how the plant interacts with its environment. They mediate the interaction of plants with pollinators, herbivores, and their natural enemies, other plants and microorganisms. So anthocyanin accumulation, this causes the red color. They're just water-soluble bacular pigments. And then the sweetness is just the strength of the sweet flavor. So it's just talking about how sweet it could get based on its genetics. The study showed that advances in genomic resources for cultivated strawberries have facilitated the identification of markers and genes associated with fruit quality traits, particularly the aroma. The establishment of wild strawberry as the model for the cultivated strawberry has enabled research into the basic mechanisms underlining fruit development. Many genes and genetic loci associated with fruit volatiles, color, and firmness have been identified, which will greatly help out with the development of new cultivars through marker-assisted breeding and CRISPR-based gene editing. So the new advancements will greatly facilitate marker-assisted breeding and integrate new or missing genes into modern varieties, and precise genome editing of selected genes and pathways. Strawberries are poised to benefit from these advances, providing consumers with a fruit that's tastier, long-lasting, healthier, and more beautiful. Are there any new cultivars? Yes, I looked at new cultivars in the United States. So the University of California, Davis, they have 5 new ones: UC Eclipse, UC Golden Gate, UC Keystone, UC Monarch, and UC Surfline. And they're all available for sale in California nurseries from Foundation Plant Services. Roughly 88% of strawberries grown in the United States come from California, and Fusarium wilt is the most common reason for crops to die, and yet 55% of the cultivars planted in the state since 2014 do not have resistance to it. So this is the first time they've released new cultivars with Fusarium wilt resistance. And they're meant to replace susceptible plants on the market, such as Monterey, UCD Royal Rice, or Royal Royce, and UCD Valiant. So breeding program experts have long been researching ways to improve strawberry cultivars to withstand pest, disease, and other stressors. So to find plants with Fusarium wilt resistance, they had to obtain DNA from thousands of plants and field studies. And they had to develop genetic tools to screen the plants and identify genes that have the resistance to this pathogen. And so not only do they have resistance, they all have superior taste to commonly used cultivars. So UC Eclipse, very impressive yields. UC Golden Gate and UC Keystone, they're day neutral and produce fruit early and late in the season. UC Surfline and UC Monarch are short day plants, and they also have resistance to verticillium wilt and Phytophthora crown root. Are there any new cultivars? Yes, I So the picture in the high tunnel, that is the UC Eclipse strawberry, and the picture of the open strawberries, the cut open strawberries, a harvested UC Keystone strawberry, and it's shown sliced in half to show its resistance to Fusarium wilt and produces high yields late in the season. So here are my resources. The Agriculture Monograph by Ramirez is where I got a lot of background information on Fargeria vesca. And then I gave you the source to where I learned about the relatives, the close relatives, and then the DNA barcoding. The citation is at the bottom. So here are some more citations. That these were based on the conservation parts that I talked about in the presentation. So this is the citations over priority status, how the Fargeria species might be changing due to climate change, in vitro propagation, and conservation, and its population genetics, which was studied using macrosatellite markers. Then I have the citation for the sugar transporters, which was researched in China, and then the fruit quality citation research was done in Japan, and then the fruit quality genetics research. Then this top one, the new cultivars, that is the cultivars that were made in California. So there is the URL address to that. And then all of these down here are the general information, which is where I just got a lot of background information. One of them is the medicinal facts of vesca, which is very interesting. Feel free to look at any of these citations that I provided, any of the URL addresses that I provided. There's just a lot of information out there. Fargeria, vesca, and all of the strawberry species are just very researched and studied because strawberry is just very popular, not just in the United States, but all around the world. And the strawberry grows everywhere. So there's just a whole bunch of things that you can find and research about. And this was very broad. I just went all over the place. I did research studies in the United States and outside of the United States. So I'm looking forward to looking at your guys' presentations. I like it when we do things like this where we can really look at one type of plant, but even doing it that way, there's a ton of information, and that is really dependent on what plant you do. I was really excited to learn more about the strawberry. I want to grow strawberries. I don't grow them right now, but I would love to put that in my garden. And I'm just very interested to know what cultivars are out there, which ones taste the best, and which one has the best resistances. And this really showed a lot. So thank you.